Manos will be done.
Hey everyone, this is Chris from Will Manos Entertainment. I'm here with my good buddy Bones. Say hello.
Hi, everybody.
There you go. For the Halloween season, we're discussing some video game series that are near and dear to us. Um, Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Um, First off, let me ask you, uh,
hmm
what was your first experience with both Silent Hill and Resident Evil?
Well, something I didn't get into until after 2 came out. My brother had gotten 2, and I watched him play through the hospital. And of course, I was in like 8th grade or something at the time, and it gave me horrifying nightmares.
Sure.
Resident Evil, again, it was thanks to my brother because he had the systems and the spending money that I didn't have when I was younger, and
Mm-hmm.
he got it on the Saturn. And it was intriguing. It wasn't like terrifying the way something like Silent Hill 2 was, but it was like B movie gross,
Yeah.
heads exploding horror, and it had its own appeal.
Right.
What about you?
Um, yeah, with Silent Hill, it was kind of the same thing. I played two first, and I think it was because Ricky and I were seeing previews on TV for Silent Hill 3. It was coming
Mm-hmm.
out, and those looked terrifying. Uh, so we were like, man, what's up with this Silent Hill series? We got our hands on
Mm-hmm.
two, because we heard that you could play two without playing one, and one was on the
Mm-hmm.
first PlayStation, so it was harder to get our hands on. Um, so we played through two and absolutely loved it because we had, and it was around the time that we were kind of, I guess, discovering video games a little more, like kind of getting to know what they could
Mm-hmm.
really offer. You know what I mean? Besides just your basic
Sure.
Mario and stuff. So that was the first game that we played that actually really scared us and had a really, really good story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that was comprehensible for the most part. Because I mean, Metal Gear Solid had a great story, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, Resident Evil, I really didn't play until four. Um,
Okay.
that was the first one I played because my brother got it on his GameCube, and but I played it understanding that it wasn't really like the Resident Evils that had come before it. Um,
Sure.
but since then, I've dabbled with more Resident Evil games, and I usually enjoy them. I actually bought
Okay.
six. I was one of the
Okay.
like five people that bought six, and I enjoyed like a fourth of it for
Mm-hmm.
the most part. But yeah, um, I have a lot more experience with Silent Hill, but at the same time, there's a lot less Silent Hill to have experience with than there is Resident Evil, obviously. Um,
Yeah, that's certainly true.
and as a bigger Silent Hill fan, it bums me out because um, Silent Hill really hasn't been, well, it gets worse and forgotten over time. It seems like Resident Evil continuously reinvents itself or gets better with age. So
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting.
Yeah, certainly. I'd absolutely agree with that, at least. Resident Evil has this pattern of, excuse me, I love this series. Like, it's one of my very favorites. Every once in a while, it seems like it churns as much as it can, and then eventually, when one of them flops, then
Mm-hmm.
they reevaluate and they do, they go back and do 4, and then they do, 5, which is a lot of 4 co-op, and then 6, which is just all of that plus, like, to the power of a trillion, and it's too much. And then they went back and reinvented with 7, and 7 was brilliant, and they made that new engine, and 2 ran on that engine, and 2 was incredible, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I hope that they're continuing to evolve. Like you said, I think that's terrific. Silent Hill just died.
Yeah, and
Um,
was killed more like,
yes,
um,
yes, well said.
and that's a real bummer. Um, Going forward in the Resident Evil series, would you rather they do Resident Evil 8 or remake Resident Evil 3?
I mean, I didn't really play 3. I watched a buddy of mine play through, I don't know, like an hour's worth of 3, I guess, and it was cool. It had some good ideas, and Nemesis was kind of creepy and all that. If they
Sure.
remade it with the same love and attention that they gave to 2, then I would
Yeah.
absolutely play that. But without that, I think I'd vote for a new installment. What about you?
Um, I would, well, either way, I guess, because having played the remake of 2 and loving it, for me, I haven't played 3, so if they did remake 3, for me it'd be almost like a new game, just kind of the
Mm-hmm.
sequel to the remake that I really enjoyed. So I'm all for that. I haven't played 7, um, although I really want to, and it's a kind of a bummer because it's kind of gotten to that point now where it's been out for so long and it's on everybody's lists of great games and all this kind of stuff that I've seen a lot of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of what goes down in the game, um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still interested to experience it. So it just seems interesting to me that with 7 they came up with this kind of drastic change where they're doing first person and um, the environment was kind of different. You're kind of stuck in this enclosed environment and all these kind of new features.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go and remake 2. So I think and now they have this. You've probably heard of the was it Project Resistance that
Mm-hmm.
they beta tested, and it seems like it's a game that they're just playing with. Like, yeah, we kind of came up with this idea and we threw it together, and we're gonna see if people like it. And they've even said like, if it's released, like they're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
messing around with this idea. And so what's interesting about the Resident Evil team, I guess, is that they just kind of try stuff, and if it
Yeah.
works, then great. If it doesn't, then we'll just come up with something else. Um, and so I think that that's really interesting, and that's probably why you know they they keep going and continue to
Mm-hmm.
find success. And on the other side of that, I think Silent Hill tried to do different things, but they didn't need to. Like
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't broken, but they tried to keep fixing it. Like they tried to add all these new elements to the game, but like no one wanted more combat. No one wanted any of that kind.
Yeah.
Like with Homecoming, man, Homecoming was a mess. I mean, it was not fun to play. I mean, if you go back to the first Silent Hill, you could argue that that's not very fun to play, but it's
Mm-hmm.
because it's super aged, and I mean, just the walking around, the whole mechanic is crazy. But
Yeah, it's rough.
Homecoming, yeah, Homecoming created this combat system that was just clunky and at, weird and completely out of place. And what pissed me off
Mm-hmm.
is beforehand they were trying to like, well, your character in this is an ex-marine, so of course his Silent Hill would be more dangerous, and it would, so it would require more action. Like, okay, I suppose But then, spoiler alert, when you get to the end, you find out that he never actually went to war. So their whole excuse doesn't actually make any sense if you play through the whole game.
Sure.
And then they just rip off pretty much the end of 2, but in a very lazy fashion.
Sure. Well, and they even bring in Pyramid Head, and Pyramid Head doesn't belong there.
No,
Um, at least not to me.
no. And I think that's another thing, like with um, the popularity of Pyramid Head worked against the series because it made him less special by trying to make him like the icon of the series. When to me, that's very much James's. He kind of belongs to James. You can't have one without the other.
Sure.
And I know that he kind of exists in Silent Hill lore, but I don't know. You just kind of feel that connection more in in 2, and then in other times it's just kind of like, well, here's Pyramid Head, it's Silent Hill, so he's got to show up. I'm like, well, why? No, he doesn't. Come up with something
Yeah.
else.
Or some, or some, yeah, or some variant of him, like the Butcher that was in Origins.
Yeah, that
It's
wasn't
just,
bad.
it's totally Pyramid Head, and it's lazy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Origins was
yeah, I agree. It wasn't
interesting.
bad, and it was still terrifying in like a different way, but it was still totally unabashedly. We know you like this, so
Yeah,
here it
yeah.
is. Please like this game,
Yeah.
and it's
y-
gross.
Um, and I'm all for innovation when it comes to video game series, obviously. And I think what they were doing, whatever they were trying to do with Silent Hills, with PT and everything, that was the kind of new step of innovation that Silent Hill needed. Not more combat or different kind of gimmicks and stuff. It was just
Hmm.
because PT very much had that Silent Hill uncertainty and unease, and just that kind of environmental creepiness that Silent Hill did perfectly.
Like, it even kind of pioneered in terms of gaming, um, and it did it so well. And people are still talking about PT today. Like something a couple weeks ago about where people were discovering how they pinned the ghost like to your back, and so she's always following you depending on where you are in the story and that sort of thing. And it's horrifying.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that game came out 5 years ago. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, and it's such a bummer to um, try and picture what we could have gotten.
Yes.
Mm. Um,
There was still a part of me that was holding out hope that Death Stranding was like fake Silent Hills, but that apparently is not happening. So
yeah.
got to kill that dream.
Yeah. Yeah. The more we've been seeing of that, the less convinced I am that we're gonna get any more of that. So that's a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
So this might be an easy question, but I thought I'd ask it. As far as scariness, which series, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, would you feel is the scariest?
Oh, absolutely, Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Resident Evil is that boo, jump.
Yeah.
I have been startled by Resident Evil before, but I have never like peeked out of my door and looked around because of Resident Evil. It's always Silent Hill.
Right. Yeah, I remember playing Silent Hill 2 by myself for the first time. Um, I was in my room, and I turned all the lights off. I'm like, ooh, spooky game. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then I started up, and probably 10 minutes in, I'm just gonna flip on this light real quick. Maybe maybe open the door on all my windows and just make sure I'm safe.
Sure.
you know, and then I'll continue.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like dark in the game. It was all fog. It was the fog,
Yeah.
and it's that first walk in Silent Hill 2 that, down that path where you know something else is in the woods or whatever. The sound design is
Yeah.
amazing. So you know something's out there. And every time you play it, you know that you're never attacked by whatever it is either, but you're
Yeah.
still completely on edge. 'Cause you're like, I don't know, it's my seventh time playing, but maybe this will be the one where, you know, some freaky thing comes out of nowhere
Well,
and
yeah.
bites my head off.
Yeah, and it seems like Silent Hill would be the place where that would be taking effect, not only just from the gameplay, but from their narrative too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something else. I agree.
Um, Now, as far as the movies, are you a fan of either? Any?
You and I went to see the original in the theater with Ricky, I think, and that was
Yeah.
cool. I was pumped for that. It wasn't like I still say that they should turn Hill 2 into a movie. Like even if they did it shot for shot, I would totally be behind that.
Absolutely.
But that being said, I can't demand what I want from filmmakers. So as it stands, I enjoyed what it did. It was really cool. They did a lot of great set design and character design and kind of stuff. I wish that you can kind of tell that they appended Sean Bean and all the other
Yeah.
men uh, like later on, and that's okay. I mean, it's mostly about Rose and
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
for I guess Sharon, not Cheryl, but
Yeah, it
Sharon,
was
I think.
Sharon in the movie, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
One
why
of those
not?
small changes.
But it was
You're
cool.
just like, okay.
Yeah, why? But
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And they had the janitor dude who was really creepy, and that was
Yeah.
pretty sweet. Their effects teams were excellent, I guess is what I have to say about that movie.
Yeah.
The Hellraiser ending didn't
Yeah.
really do it for me. Alice Krieg is very talented, and I think she played her role well, but that ending was just kind of silly, I think. The nurses were horrifying, and that was awesome.
Yes.
Um, I wish that they did like a Clue sort of thing. It had, different endings just to kind of have an homage to the series.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that would have people talking about it more, I think, where they like say, oh, what are you talking about? Like they came back to the home and he wasn't there, but it looks like he's there. But then somebody
Right.
else is like, no, what are you talking about? They didn't get out. That would be amazing.
That would have been cool.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
Ricky and I have talked about how, like, now on Netflix, they're, kind of playing with the choose your own adventure movies and stuff. Um,
Yeah,
and I think Silent Hill would be perfect for that.
certainly. I'd fund that. Like if they did a crowdfunding sort of thing for that, I'd love
Yeah.
to contribute to that.
That'd be the perfect way to make a Silent Hill film work.
Totally.
Um, did you ever see the second one?
You know, I did not. I think I own it in Voodoo, but I do not. I have not seen it.
Yeah.
Do I need to, or do I need to avoid it?
Oh, um, boy. Boy. Yeah, I guess you could avoid it. I guess there's really nothing you could gain from watching it. Because there's nothing
Okay.
really in there that you need to see. And it's kind of just. It's a really lazy compression of Silent Hill 3. Along with a lot of these other goofy ideas from the filmmaker. And it ends in Pyramid Head comes to save the girl at the end, and he has like a monster fight with another Silent Hill monster, which felt so fan servicey that I
What?
rolled my eyes. Yeah, because she was the real Lessa, how that all goes. So they pretty much double down on the idea that Pyramid Head is her protector. Uh, so she uses that to her advantage to get Pyramid Head to fight the final boss monster at the end. So,
Okay.
so however you feel about that should determine whether you want to watch the movie or not.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, but then a lot of it is,
You know,
go ahead. Um, what kind of, so what do you look for in a horror game?
honestly, there have been so few that have genuinely scared me. I would love to see somebody. That's what sounded so appealing about Silent Hills is that they said we're going all out. No, we're going to. Originally intended to make a game that would make you pee yourself, but we are now going for a game that will make you completely crap your pants. And that honestly sounded so appealing, and with the genius of Kojima behind it,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was going to be exactly what I wanted, and now that's dead.
Yeah.
So I guess what I want is something that's really terrifying, not only from like gore, because honestly I could do away with gore. It's the
Yeah.
psychological terror that's particularly appealing.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with Silent Hill as well that's always been more effective. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is I kind of feel the same way about gore. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't scare me all that much. Um,
Yeah.
like I've never really gotten that like the iconic image from The Shining of like all that blood coming out of the elevator. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
but if I don't know, it's just a bunch of liquid. you know, I mean, you could, like, yeah, that would be a lot of blood. Like, and the fact that you fill the elevator with blood is disturbing, but it's not scary for me to witness that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, so gore has never really been all that effective to scare me, and with Silent Hill, they always did it in a way where it was I don't, like the one of the best and scariest moments of the series, in my opinion, was in 3 when you walk into this room and one whole wall is a mirror. You remember that bit? And there's like a
Mm-hmm.
sink,
I do.
and you're
Yeah.
just standing there looking at your reflection, and eventually your reflection stops moving, and
Mm-hmm.
the sink on the other end starts getting all gross, and and blood comes out of it, but it's not really like blood. It's like creepy. It, I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's Silent Hill blood, so it's not just like oozing. It's more like crawling all over the place. You know what I mean? And it completely
I
fills
do.
up your reflection, and you realize that you can't actually like you forgot where the exit of the door was. Just like, oh my god, what the fuck, blah blah blah. Um, and that was a lot more effective than just like seeing someone get mutilated. And even when,
Mm-hmm.
like in Silent Hill 2, where you see Pyramid Head doing his thing, he's not always like, he's not really like ripping someone apart or something. He's always doing
Yeah.
something just a bit ambiguous. You know that it's totally messed up, but you can't really tell exactly what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're
I
like,
do.
like whatever this is, it's not consensual, and it's horrible to watch, and you don't want to be involved, for sure. Um, but it's nothing as
Yeah.
straightforward as just, well, I don't want to get my head ripped off by this guy, because who knows if that'll even happen, or at what point, when he gets his hands on you. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess that's the mystique of Silent Hill as well, is what's so effective is, you know, it's horrible, but your imagination fills up, all of that. So whatever is presented to you just is so much more horrifying in your head because they gave you that space to build it up.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um,
Certainly.
so yeah, I kind of agree. Like, there's not a whole lot of scary games that seem to go for that so much anymore. It's more in your
Hmm.
face kind of scares. More recently, I would say, um, you know, with the exception of PT, of course,
Hmm.
the game that scared me the most in recent is the Blair Witch game. Um,
Really?
yeah, because it was tense for sure. I mean, a lot of that game is you're just wandering around in the dark, woods, um, and so it definitely took me back a little bit to the Silent Hill 2 days of just wandering around. You know, there's something out there, um, except
Hmm.
this time, it every now and then the thing will come out of the woods and attack you, and you have to think on your feet and
Hmm.
it's really, and the story's pretty good, if not, a little predictable towards the end. But even so, it's still, you still feel involved in the narrative, which is nice, and
Hmm.
it's a little more engrossing than other horror games I've played, and it's not really one of those
Hmm.
like where you feel helpless against the enemies because you can defend yourself, um, but you
Yeah.
still feel like you're on the back foot the whole time. Which so it's more of a Silent Hill thing of like, yeah, you can defend yourself, but you
Hmm.
don't always need to, and sometimes I don't know. It's intense. It was pretty good. I think it was really well made, and it more than a few times kind of reminded me of Silent Hill. You could totally tell that whoever made it was definitely inspired. Because I've played the other games that I forget the company is called, but I played like Layers of Fear and
Hmm.
Observer for a little bit, but
Yeah.
they felt a little empty, I guess. Um,
Hmm.
Layers of Fear was creepy, but if nothing seemed to ever happen, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
do.
um, so Blair Witch felt like a big step up for them. Um, so I really enjoyed it. So
For
I would
Bloober Team.
recommend it.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, Bloober Team. They're called.
Bloober Team.
And yeah, they're good at creating atmospheric horror. But yeah, you're right. Nothing really is in at least in Layers of Fear. I didn't. Yeah, Observer, and I wanted to during the time it was on Game Pass, but I'm just a dingus. So.
Mm, it's okay.
Um,
You can
but
skip it.
you had a similar feeling from that you did from. Yeah, it's a shame. Rooker.
Yeah, and I mean that was an interesting. Uh, that got me into it. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It was a lot of just solve this puzzle and go forward. Like, okay, nothing really. And
Yeah.
it was the environment was good, but I don't know if they were trying to. I don't know if they were trying to do straight up like Blade Runner, or if they were trying to do something creepier. It kind of seemed like their influences were all over the place, so I couldn't really get a good handle
Mm.
on what I was trying to, what they wanted me to experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, I can understand that. It's a shame too. Seemed like a good idea.
yeah, and yeah, I think yeah, I think they really hit their stride with Blair Witch, and so I'm excited to see what they
Okay.
come up with next. And it also kind of reminded me a little bit of Fatal Frame,
Hmm.
because you definitely have to be aware of your environment, and it's kind of that constant searching, but not necessarily wanting to find what you're looking for kind of thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the Fatal Frame was really good at.
Well, that's appealing.
Yeah. I
It was
remember
good at that
um,
sort of thing.
I played Fatal Frame 2 for the first time in my family was living in an apartment where I had my own room and my door was wide open. It was like in
Mm-hmm.
the afternoon, everyone was home. It was a bright day out and I was playing Fatal Frame 2 and at some point you could just hear me screaming throughout the entire apartment. So I forget what it was, but maybe it was the was it a lady who couldn't find her eyes? Something like that. But she
Two,
scared the
two,
hell out of
two
me.
had the twins. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I didn't get very far in that game. That game scared me.
Well, it's terrifying, but it's memorable because of that.
Yeah,
It was creative. It put you in the first person perspective, made it so that it was so much happening, because you had to look everything in the face. Had to do it to do it properly. You had to wait until you were right there as they were about to attack you in order to flash at just the last second and get the extra
right.
points. And they made you literally stare the fear in the face, and that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Whatever happened to those games? Did they make one after two?
Yeah, those games. I'm sorry, what's that?
Did they make one after two?
They did. They made it three. It was called The Tormented, and I don't think that got an Xbox port.
Ah,
But it was intriguing. It was kind of what five eventually became, where you're controlling several different people, and there's a bunch of wacky stuff going on in your like home or wherever it is that you are, and it was it was all right. It wasn't as good as two. Two was the highlight of the series, at least to me.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, they did do another one, and then they did four. I think it was Mask of the Lunar Eclipse or something like that. But that was only Wii and only Japan. That was after that Nintendo acquired the rights.
Ah.
And they still have the rights, which is why we had five only on the Wii U.
Oh, there was a 5 on the Wii U, huh?
Hmm.
That
That's
must
one of the
have
reasons
been
I bought a Wii U,
interesting.
is because that was coming.
Did they
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
utilize the controller and everything in the game?
They did. They used the game, and that's really the only way you play it is by having the gamepad. And it was kind of a shame because um, it probably would have done better if it had a broader audience. But it was cool. Yeah, it was all motion control from the gamepad, so you had to hold it up to your face like you were taking a picture and that sort of thing. It was cool. It was creative.
Interesting.
And they had a mechanic where if you depending on how wet your character got from the environment, there was water everywhere, and depending on how you played the game, if you got really wet, that would attract more spirits and all that kind of stuff. So it had a couple of new ideas um, that were pretty cool, but Nintendo seems so not to care about the franchise anymore. It's a shame.
Why do you think that is? You think they're more focused on family-friendly stuff, or?
Even less so these days than they ever have been is the odd thing. They're okay with things like Doom being on their console and stuff like that, and wacky games like The Witcher. We have sex scenes and stuff like that we have in games that we would normally not see on uh, other consoles. Well, at least back in the day, let alone Nintendo. But now Nintendo is absolutely all over that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
tough for me to say, but frankly, I think they've seen such poor sales from the last several entries that they're not really inclined to give Koei Tecmo money to make another one, would be my guess. But what do I know?
Right. Be an interesting VR experience.
Certainly. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be very cool. I'd play that. Resident
Yeah.
Evil 7 in VR, dude. If you get the opportunity to do that, it is incredible. It's
Oh yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, I've heard that they had that in VR, and I was thinking, it's in terms of VR, I think horror is the best genre for that. Because
Certainly.
I mean, if you just walking through Silent Hill in VR, like actually going through the fog, and you know, if you had the controller using the flashlight and all that kind of stuff, that would be
Hmm.
that'd be pretty crazy. I'd dig on that,
Certainly.
and it'd be, I mean, effectively terrifying. I'm sure.
Certainly. And yeah, doing it in first person and that sort of thing, I think that'll absolutely be immersive and um, what people like us want, I guess.
Yeah. So you've played Seven in
If
VR?
it were really good, a very little bit, only a couple minutes.
Oh, okay.
But they even had controls like on the head cam so that you could peek around corners and that sort of thing. It was totally
Mm,
rad.
that's cool.
It's not a very common setup for people to have anymore, like as on displays. I got to play it on a display, and it was totally cool. But
Oh,
now these days, of course, 7 is old hat. It's about almost 3 years old now, so no one cares, and it's a shame.
yeah. Hmm. Um, as far as
Any other sorry,
go ahead. Sorry. What
no,
did you say?
not at all. I just wondered if there were any other horror series that you enjoyed that you'd like to see return or anything like that. I'm just curious
I'm
what you have
trying
to
to
say.
think. Trying to think about a big, because I never got into the Clock Tower series. Because that was
Yeah,
one of those ones where you had to run away all the time, right?
yeah, that's right. That was basically your gameplay was.
I think I saw my brother playing one of those, and I was just like, "Oh, is this the
Okay.
whole thing? Is you just running away?" And he's like, "Yeah, kind of." I don't really like. I get that being an aspect, in part of a game, but not like, at some point you'd want to do something, you know. I mean, you're
Right.
not gonna go after every single bad guy in Silent Hill, but when you're confronted with one, you'd like to do something about it.
Certainly.
I would say a big part of
It's.
the later parts of Silent Hill 2 is kind of navigating while avoiding um,
Mm-hmm.
monsters, mannequins, and the like. Um, but what about you? Any other
Yes.
big horror games that you're into?
And not these days. I mean, I've played PT to death, and I mean, it changed my life probably. PT was absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Friday the 13th is now free on Xbox Live
I saw that.
for gold members, and so I did get that, but I've yet to play it. I hear it's really buggy, but very fun.
Hmm. Yeah, I was
Have you played that at all?
No, I haven't.
I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about that.
I tried. I've played Dead by Daylight a bit, uh,
Okay.
which can be fun. It's a little stressful. Um, I
Okay.
I prefer playing as the killer, uh, just because I happen to be pretty good at it. But it obviously isn't as intense playing as the killer because you're killing everybody. But
Sure.
it's an interesting concept uh, that I think has been done pretty well, and they got all kinds of downloadable characters. But I'm interested to see now that Friday the 13th is out, how that differs from Dead by Daylight, because on the surface they kind of feel like they're, kind of the same game, except with Friday the 13th you
Mhm.
only have the one option for the bad guy. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, certainly. You're going to be doing like some streaming of that or gameplay recording or anything for the channel?
Um, Probably. I mean, I probably could. Might as well.
Yeah, if you're going to play it anyway, might as well, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah, just let me know. I'd love to watch you play that.
sure. I was thinking of doing something because I don't know what I'm gonna actually be doing on Halloween night. So I was thinking it might be
Hmm.
fun, um, to just stream some Halloween video games. Um, so that might be a good option for that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
'Cause I don't know what else really. I mean,
I'm kind
cause
of bummed out that you don't have a. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, what were you saying? I was.
You were talking about Halloween night. I can't wait for Halloween this year because Luigi's Mansion 3 is coming.
Oh, that's
And I know
right.
that you would be totally into that too.
I would be. I love Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would buy a Switch just for Luigi's Mansion, but had I the funds.
Yes.
Um, what's the? So I saw that with the new one, you get like a Gooigi, a little Luigi
Hmm.
double, and all kinds of other fun stuff. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah. It looks impressive, and the at least their American PR team is saying basically, yeah. I mean, the understands that people don't really care much for the way we did two, and honestly, I like two, so I would even take more of that. But because they're trying to make it more like a big interconnected experience, it seems more like the Luigi's Mansion 2 that I at least wanted, and a lot of other people did too. So I'm getting pretty pumped for that. It's even co-op too, and that's why Gooigi is there, so that
Oh,
you can
I
have.
see.
Uh,
What was wrong with two? What did people not like about the second one? Because I mean, I haven't played it, obviously.
It was Yeah, it was bite-sized. It was mission-based. It was for the 3DS, and so because of that, it was designed to be played a little bit at a time. And because of that, you tended to do a lot of the same stuff over and over in the same places, just to kind of make a little bit of progress. So
Gotcha.
it seemed like while there wasn't a whole lot of game, you were playing a lot of it, and it was all the same.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
But they had like five different mansions. To their credit, they certainly gave it some heart. It had a different kind of art style. You know how Luigi's Mansion, the first one, had this kind of like realistic vibe to it.
Yeah.
But in two, it was more like cartoony. Like how they kind of look like toys in like current Mario stuff. It's very much in the same kind of vein that way. So it's not
Oh,
like
I
it's
see.
bad and it fits more in the universe. It's just not quite as immersive and impressive as the first game was, because it was kind of like a tech demo for the GameCube, and it
Right.
was awesome. It was beautiful, and they had great lighting and shadows, and they had like some
Yeah.
genuine fear, at least that I felt at the time when I was in eighth or ninth grade or whatever when that came
Sure.
out,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. It did a lot of good things that you wouldn't think to see from a Mario family game.
Um. Yeah. I mean, I remember being surprisingly creeped out, um, in moments of that game.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh well, this isn't. I mean, it's not a horror game, but it's still effectively spooky. And
Hmm.
I'm all for um, spooky environments and mansions and stuff. So that was right
Yeah,
up my
certainly.
alley. And of course, my boy Luigi. Um, so I wish I could play the new one. I wish I had a GameCube still so I could play the first one, because that was one of my like annual games. You know, every year you pop
Yeah.
in Luigi's Mansion. Um, I wonder if I could get a GameCube and the game for cheap online. Probably not
Or you
as
could get a
cheap as
Wii
I
too if you
think.
get one of the old Wii's. Those are backwards
Oh, I
compatible.
guess that's true.
Might be easier. Might be easier to do that.
Yeah, you're right. But
Or I guess you could play the 3DS remake, which is also good, even though it's not quite the same.
oh, they remade it on that too.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of um, horror games on the Switch, I imagine.
Be pretty cool. That'd be fun. I'd love to watch you stream that if you're gonna play Luigi's game.
Oh man.
Love that game. It doesn't seem to get a whole lot of love, and I understand it didn't do everything perfectly, but I sure liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I saw that they Did you ever play the Ghostbusters game?
You know, I didn't. Do I need to?
Really? I did, yeah. It was actually a lot of fun. I don't know if I mean, depending on the price, I don't know if I'd buy it again for the remastered, but
Yeah.
it definitely made you feel like a Ghostbuster. So that was good. Uh, they got the controls down perfectly, and so when you when you trap your first ghost, you're like, yeah, shit, Ghostbuster, that's what's up. And the only problem was what I think they could have improved on was, first of all, you didn't play as any of the Ghostbusters. You played, at least in the single player, you played as some new guy joining the Ghostbusters, which is fine. I understand why they would do that, like go that direction in a video game.
Sure.
But I thought it would have been better because around the same time Gears 3 was coming out, and that had the four-player co-op. And I was like, man, that sounds like the perfect fit for a Ghostbusters game. You know, you and your three buddies, let's go be Ghostbusters. And,
Yeah.
but they only have that option for the multiplayer, and the multiplayer was kind of this half-assed horde mode that really only had
I see.
10 levels. And so once you did that, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, well, we could go do another 10 levels on a different map. But the only map that really mattered was New York, because at the end of the New York map, you got to fight the Marshmallow Man at, the 10th level. So if that's an option, why would you do any other map except, but that one? You know what I mean?
The iconic one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna... Or we could do the one where we fight the big library monster at the end. Like, who the fuck cares? It's just a bunch of books. I want to fight the Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
I'm a Ghostbuster. You know? But...
I do know, and I'm completely with you.
And then they remastered it. And I don't know... And they didn't make any of those changes, so I really don't know what the point of remastering it would be.
But I'm sorry, you said the single player experience was okay though?
It was. It was a lot of fun. They call it officially Ghostbusters 3 because, Dan Aykroyd wrote it and everything. But, I think it's important to remember that the Ghostbusters script went through many phases before it became what it was. And because the writing of the movie or the video game is not great, and it's not very funny because it's all written. You know what I mean? I mean, you can tell some of the magic of the movie was just those actors being those actors and going off one another and just this natural chemistry that you're just not going to be able to recreate in a video game. So and they got all the original actors back to voice themselves, which is great. But Bill Murray's
Yeah,
a
that's cool.
terrible voice actor, um, so that's kind of a bummer. Uh, so it's not the perfect Ghostbusters experience, but
Yeah.
for like I'd say a good half, maybe a little bit more of the game, it's as perfect of a Ghostbusters experience as we're gonna get. Um,
Okay.
it runs into the issue later on of like they think they're gonna get stale, so they have to come up with new weapons, and so instead of like just the regular, um, you know, the fucking thing, you know eventually they start introducing like slime cannons and stuff like that that you have to use
Mm-hmm.
on different types of ghosts, and so you have to slime them in order to get them weaker, and then use a different kind of thing, and so they just start complicating the
Yes.
gameplay a little more, and it becomes less of just there's the ghost, capture the ghost, put the ghost in the trap, and now you're a Ghostbuster kind of thing, because you know they just have to
Yeah.
keep it interesting, I guess. When and it kind of it's one of those pitfalls that I think a lot of video games run into, where you know they try and keep things interesting by adding new elements, but by adding these new elements, we're getting further away from the game that I wanted to play in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Like like Evil Dead games, for instance. There's been two really good
Mm-hmm.
Evil Dead games, but they both get weaker as they go because you get further away from the classic chainsaw and shotgun combo. You know, you're switching out your
Yeah.
chainsaw for different implements, or you get instead of the shotgun you have this gun, whatever, that does different things. And you're like, I understand trying to keep the gameplay fresh, but I no longer feel like Ash. You know what I mean? His whole thing is the shotgun
Sure.
and the chainsaw, and so that's what I want. And as soon as you get rid of those things and make it mandatory that I have this other thing instead, then I'm not going to have as much fun. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, certainly.
And
It's the
you
peril
know,
of making a video game out of a movie, I guess.
exactly. And that's why and I don't know how you feel about this, but I'd rather a game be short and consistent than
Mm-hmm.
um, it be overlong and you know trying to keep things fresh throughout trying all, because if it's short and it's fun and consistent all the way through, then you can bet I'm gonna play it again. You know what I mean?
Sure.
As opposed to,
And that's how to get the best experience out of a little bite-sized game. I completely agree.
yeah, I mean, just think of the original Devil May Cry. As soon as I beat that game, I played it again. Like I just started it right up. Um,
Yeah.
I just started playing it again because it was awesome, and now I get to keep all my cool stuff. Um, so, and those are the games that you play over and over again. So like when I wouldn't buy the new Ghostbusters because I remember I've tried to revisit it before, and then I get to those moments where it's just like, oh, you have to trade in this for this. I'm like, oh, well, that's right. This is when the game started going downhill. So I'm going to stop playing it because now that I know that, I can just stop playing it now. You know, instead, so I feel like
Yeah.
I haven't played the whole thing because there's always this moment where, you know, I don't know. But, yeah. Switching gears a little bit,
Yeah.
next month, as I mentioned to you before, I'm gonna
Mhm.
finally start my playthrough of The Witcher 3.
Sweet.
Um, is there anything I should know beforehand? that might
I
help
mean,
me out as I
I didn't know
begin?
anything about the series. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about the series before going in. I had a buddy who played two and said it was awesome, and that was my only reference to the series up to that point. I had heard that
Okay.
it was an amazing RPG, so I didn't really know going in. It's very kind of Elder Scrolls if they gave it a new engine and like wrote stuff for it. But
Gotcha.
like, it's it's a good immersive experience. You don't need to use the oils, even though they push you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I went all the way through Death March without using any oils, except for the one that they require of you so that you know how to use it. Um, you don't need to use those, even though they do help. You don't really need to use bombs except to destroy nests and that sort of thing. You really don't need a whole lot of their extra stuff. It's like having a big yacht where you have all the stuff that you can use. For the most part, you don't need it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Just where they need
Um,
the old good old swords.
Yeah, you need the steel and silver, and he does just fine on his own. It's not terribly difficult. I think there's an achievement tied to beating it on Death March, if that matters to you. Um, yeah, it's very very much like Elder Scrolls or The Witcher 2. It's probably better to compare it to The Witcher 2 just because it's the same series and
Sure.
is third person and all that kind of good stuff. So. But yeah, man, I mean, you got into the books and you played two and loved it and that sort of thing. I think you'll absolutely cherish three. But I don't know about any like tips to tell you going in other than like good time. Don't try and romance Yen and Triss because they will get you.
Hmm. So choose
Um,
one, huh?
just like just yeah, just be a person, you know.
Don't be a
Um,
douche.
yeah. Um,
Makes
so yeah,
sense.
I mean, just have fun with it. It's immersive and it's massive. Uh, can Did you get the complete edition?
Yeah, so I got all the DLC and stuff too.
Okay,
So,
sweet. Yeah, Two Solon is amazing. The Blood and Wine expansion is particularly excellent. Hearts
hmm
of Stone was good too, but Blood and Wine was probably worth price of admission for both just on its own, frankly.
wow. And are those
Um,
DLC
there's
type missions where I should finish the story before doing them, or will they become like available at some point during the story?
I'm honestly unsure. I downloaded those after we played through the main game, so I'm not sure if they come available earlier in the game.
hmm
But I think they're leveled. Like you probably have to have a certain level, and by that point, it's probably
Oh, I
easier to
see.
finish the base game first before you go in and do those.
Gotcha.
But I'm not terribly sure about that because it's been a few years since I've looked at it.
Okay.
Um,
Makes sense.
but it's worth your time. Tucson is a whole other region, so it's probably best to finish up what you're doing in Novigrad or whatever before you go there. But
Okay.
it's not necessary as far as I can tell. But it's pretty dope. It's a really good game. It won tons and tons of awards, and I understand why. It
Yeah.
wasn't like my game of the year or anything, but people have
Girls.
different tastes, and I can absolutely respect it. Um,
Well,
so yeah, I think you'll adore it.
the reason I've been thinking about it lately too is just because I've been playing a lot of Gears and Borderlands
Mm-hmm.
and these kind of shootery games. And I was kind of thinking the other day, just like I kind of miss getting lost in a world because I haven't really done an open world
Mm-hmm.
game in a while. Um, but that was kind of by design. I like to space out my kind of game experiences. Like I'll do a bunch of like
Sure.
short, story driven games and then like shooters or whatever, games that I can just kind of get
Mm-hmm.
through. Um, and I was doing those now, and I knew they were coming up. So previously, I had went through like both Red Dead's again, and so that's obviously a
Okay.
lot. And just spending a lot of time in the old West and loving it. But yeah,
Yeah.
but it's been a few months since I've played anything like that, so I think I'm ready to to dive headfirst into
Okay.
some other world and just to, because there's something special about open world games. Um, when you're in the midst of them, you just you wake up and you're just like, yeah, I can't wait to get back into whatever. I wonder where I'll go to get today. I wonder what I'll discover, or
Sure.
what kind of adventures I'll go on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Whom
I
I'll
think,
meet and yeah.
yeah, exactly, the kind of the characters and the relationships that I'll build. Um, I think open world games are special in that respect. Um, so I'm excited to get into a new
Yeah, I can
one.
understand that. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not generally one for the open world. That's not to say I don't like them or anything, but it's just like I tend to prefer tighter narratives.
Mm-hmm.
And you tend to get that a lot more with shorter linear games.
Yeah, for sure.
Not to say you don't get them at all with open world games and that sort of thing. In fact, with Kojima doing Death Stranding here, I fully anticipate very much enjoying an open world game story in the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, yeah, that'll be. I'm sure.
So we'll
That's
see
why
about that
I'm
craziness.
I would
But
encourage
yeah,
you
dude, I
to
mean, you absolutely have a point. There's a unique experience that you get from something like that of wanting to dive in somewhere else, or like playing, Fallout or something like that, Fallout New Vegas or whatever. You go to some new place and there's this guy thing for you, and it's like a whole new day. It's like you're playing a role, and that's the whole point.
Can you hear me? Hello? 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 I think I lost you. Shit.
I hear you. There you are.
Oh, okay. There we go. What was I saying? Oh, that's why with Death Stranding, I would really encourage you to
Hmm.
some sort of at least first impression type dealy, because I just love to. Obviously, I'm not gonna be able to play it, but I'm incredibly intrigued to find out what
Yeah.
game actually ends up being.
Hmm. Well, yeah, for sure. If you want, we can set it up sometime after the 8th. I'll see if I can get it streaming on Twitch.
Yeah.
And then if you want, you can get in there, and I can save that over to YouTube and do something like that. Maybe cut that in a little bit. But yeah, if you want, I would love to be a part of that. So thank you for the opportunity.
You weren't so interested in the Red Dead games, am I right?
I have yet to play a Rockstar game, with the exception of Team Bondi's L.A. Noire.
Is that right? Is that,
Yeah,
what'd you think of L.A. Noire?
It was a good idea. It was unique, sort of. That's not even really fair either. It was it was it was a good idea. I like the actors that they got did a good job, and there's a lot to like about it. But it might have been one of those like ahead of its time games, because if they had done it today with the
Yeah.
technology that we have now, I think that we would have gotten a very different kind of experience. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I played it back when it first came out. And I liked what they were going for. I liked the idea of an old school detective game like that, where you just help solve mysteries.
Mhm.
But I don't think the facial stuff that they're going for was quite there yet.
Mhm.
Everyone looked like they had something to hide. And I don't know if that was your experience, but not one person there didn't look like some shifty son of a bitch,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So it was kind of hard to work with that game. I was never really sure I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that all kind of came down to just the technology
Mm-hmm.
So you never played like a Grand Theft Auto or any of those?
Nah, no GTA, no Red Dead, no Bully. I just really haven't played Rockstar games.
Um, well, here's what I'll say about Rockstar as a
Yeah.
whole. Uh, if you haven't played a GTA game yet, then I don't think there's really any need for you to play one. Because
Okay.
if you're interested enough, you'd probably have played one already.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way you don't know what they. I mean, you can probably guess what that experience is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it'll hold no surprises for you if you went and jumped onto a GTA game.
Let's see.
But if you were to be interested in a Rockstar game, Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably one of the best games I've ever played.
Wow.
Yeah,
Praise.
just because, I mean, not the detail of the characters, the story, just the level design, the game, just everything. It's this. It was such a rewarding experience all the way through,
Hmm.
and it was one of those rare open world things. Because, like you were saying, like the weird thing about open world games is you'll start out with a story of like, oh, you need to go do this thing, and you need to do it. It's an emergency, but not enough of an emergency where you can't like faff about for like 40 hours or so before you actually get to the story quests. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And with Red Dead, with the second one, it kind of has this attitude of you're existing in the West. Like your goal is to make money and to, you know, get your camp up, and so it allows you. The narrative allows you to mess around and you know just be a cowboy. Basically, is what it's encouraging you to do. Is just live the cowboy life.
Yeah.
And you're more driven by your camp that's full of these characters that you just really get to know and fall in love with, and you want to take care of them, and you know all this kind of stuff. And even when you're out on your own, you'll come across all these little stories that are so complex and interesting, and just I've never really seen character work done in a video game like it's done in Red Dead Redemption 2. And it's not just the main character either, it's the people he's surrounded by. They all just, each one has this tremendous arc throughout and it's like 20 different people, and each one of them have their own story to tell throughout the game, and it really, how you decide how involved you want to get into everybody's lives, but it's really rewarding if you choose to spend the time, you know, and like one of them is writing a novel, and throughout the game, you can visit her kind of section and read her journal, and it'll be updated throughout the game, so you get to see how her novel is progressing, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just it's really interesting. It's kind of a one of a kind experience, and it definitely was one of those open world games where you feel like you're like for a few months you were just living Red Dead Redemption 2, like you're just living in that world, and you couldn't wait to get back, and that's what you were thinking about all the time. You're taking care of your horse. You know, I've never been a horse guy, but they've created a system where, you know, you really get to know your horse and you love your horse. And so if they die, it's like a huge deal because you can't just like get another. I mean, you can just get another horse, but not this horse. I mean, this was my horse.
Yeah.
We bonded, and I named him.
Sure.
All this kind of stuff. and so it rewards you by putting in the time, and it's a really
Okay.
the just the story itself is just a really good western, and
Hmm.
yeah, so I don't know, it's the best Rockstar has ever been, and I've never been, even though I've played a lot of the GTA's and a lot of their other games, I've never really been a whole like yeah, Rockstar is like the shit, like that's the studio, you know, like a lot of those people are.
Yeah.
Um, with the exception of Red Dead 2, I think they've accomplished something that no one's really accomplished before in an open world game, and it'll be interesting because I even heard that the makers of Breath of the Wild 2 have taken inspiration from Red Dead Redemption 2, which is interesting to me because I think it's going to have
Yeah, certainly.
a huge effect on games going forward. I think it's one of those defining titles that will change things as we go forward. So, but
Well, that's high praise. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I hadn't played that, but I certainly felt that God of War had that kind of effect, and that was
Yeah.
a rare thing for me to think about. You know, something like Resident Evil 4 or Ocarina of Time or something, where it's just this landmark piece in the gaming industry. And if Red Dead's meeting that too, and your recommendation, that's enough for me now. Um,
yeah,
I am certainly intrigued by Red Dead 2.
it's interesting playing those games every now and then, where you're like, when like a few hours into it, you're just like, I think this game has changed things. You know what I mean?
Certainly.
You just like do something in the game, you're just like, wow, I've never. This is something different. This is really something special, and that doesn't happen, especially anymore. I think mostly, even though there are so many innovations and things going on, it feels like a lot of the games that I play now are a lot of the same, or like.
Sure.
You know, they pick and choose mechanics from other popular games and just decide which ones they can fit into this one, and you know, whether it works or not, you know. So, I mean, I don't know how far. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I would say the Assassin's Creed series has. I mean, they lost me with Odyssey. I don't know if you played it.
I didn't. I played Origins, but I did not play Odyssey. Why did Odyssey lose you?
Because it was completely unrecognizable as an Assassin's Creed game. Like,
I see.
in the game it was, I don't know, there's kind of this joke with Ubisoft that eventually they'll just come out with a game called The Game, because all of their
Yeah.
mechanics from all their different games are just bleeding into one another. Like, you know, here
I
are all
see.
your, you know, sections of the map. Go to this section, do a thing, and free that section of the map, and then get, you know.
Yeah.
And now they're including the whole numbers thing of, oh, you can't go over here because you're not strong enough, or you can't attack this guy because you're not strong enough yet. So they're introducing, you know, the grind into the whole thing, and that's what really pissed me off about Odyssey. It's like, you know, I don't know. I'm an assassin. I should be able to just explore the map. But as soon as you start, it's pretty much like a whole lot of the game is available to you. Like, yeah, you could explore the whole map, but if you come here, you will immediately die because you are too weak. So, don't, you know, explore the map. You know, if you want to have any fun,
Yeah.
stay where you're at. And do all these meaningless side quests until you're able to, you know, be strong enough to go to the next town over.
Yeah.
And
Bummer.
when I was playing Odyssey, at one point, I had been playing it for probably 3 hours straight. and
Mhm.
I was just running from place to place, grabbing a thing, taking it to a person, or talking to a person, and going and killing a person, and then talking to that person again, and then I would go get some chests, and then I would go get a thing, and then I'd go talk to a person, go kill a guy, and then maybe kill a few more other guys, and then I'd go get a thing. I'm just like, what have I been doing? Like, what have I actually accomplished in these last 3
Yeah.
hours? I've done stuff, for sure. I've been busy, but what have I done? Like, nothing. I feel like in these last 4 hours, I've progressed like only like 1% into the game, and
Yeah.
all I have to look forward to after this is more of this. You know, even
Gross.
if I get to the next section, it's going to be, oh, now there's all these other things that are all going to be the same thing, but you're in a different location now, talking to different people, killing different people, grabbing different stuff. Oh, great. You know? So, like, I don't see what the point is anymore. Whereas, I kind of discovered the new Hitman games, which are pretty much, you know, what Assassin's Creed should be, where, you know, here's your target, go kill the guy, and
Yeah.
hopefully no one will know that you were there. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. You know? But,
Yeah.
so I think
Well, that's weird too.
Assassin's
That's
Creed
published by Ubisoft too, isn't it?
it's Warner Brothers and,
Warner Brothers. Okay.
yeah, and IO Interactive.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I've not ever played any Hitman. I'm not sure that seems really odd to me. Yeah, you're right. Assassin's Creed is not very Assassins-y or Creedy anymore.
No, and there's even segments in Odyssey where you're pretty much going, like, it's an all-out battle, and you got your sword and shield, and you're on a battlefield, battling dudes. And I was just like, when did this happen? But I mean, looking back, I mean, I guess slowly, because there has been so many games, and just bit by bit, you know. But I think Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I mean, you weren't really an assassin in that, but that was just a kick-ass pirate game, so I think I forgave it.
Yeah.
But this new one didn't really have an identity enough outside of that for me to forgive it for all the other stuff, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, it's weird.
Yeah, I get that. That's a shame. I played. Let's see here. I played 1 and then 2 and then like an hour of Brotherhood and couldn't take it, and so I gave up the series for a long, long time until Origins came out because I am as you know, a raging Egyptophile and had to have my fix.
Yeah.
So had to give that a shot, and that was kind of cool. It wasn't like amazing, but it did some good things, and the world was like well fleshed out and that sort of thing. But it seemed like there weren't a whole lot of interesting things around the map that were different from the set of like 4 things that we beginning, which honestly was the biggest problem that I had with the first game. You know, go kill somebody or pick their pocket or get information and then go and do something else.
Yeah.
Um,
And eventually, like, they just added different, you know, mechanics and things to try and make those same very basic quests more interesting. But really, I mean, eventually you're just like, well, I'm still doing the same stuff, though, that I've always been doing, you know? So, I don't know.
yeah.
I think I'm officially done. I don't need another Assassin's Creed. No one needs another Assassin's Creed, but we kind of know.
No, and we haven't for a while, I'd argue. But they're a lot of money, so good stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Just a kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Good for them for making money, like innovate and be creative in a creative industry, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally
I don't know.
that's been kind of
I don't know.
the overall issue with the video game industry recently. What do you think
Seems that
about
way.
Cyberpunk 2077?
Cyberpunk. Oh, 7. I mean, I don't care. Um, I think, I think Bailey will probably get it. I have a buddy who's super pumped about it, and he's like taking a week off from work to play it, and then play it again as a different kind of character, that sort of thing. So
Uh-huh.
I'm like in a community of people who want to play it. But I mean, I've played Deus Ex,
Yeah.
and it was cool. And now I'm done. Um, um, so, and especially since they're taking out the third-person cutscenes and they're making it all first-person,
Yeah.
that makes it immersive to me. Oddly enough, more for the. I, I don't know. A good big RPG. The CD Projekt Red, they did such an amazing job with The Witcher 3 that I will absolutely follow it.
Hmm.
And if people are in it, then yeah, I'll be all over that. But I'm not like budgeting for it the way I am for things like Death Stranding and Jedi Fallen Order, that sort of thing.
Right.
But I think it'll be, I think it'll be intriguing. Certainly keep my eye on it, but I'm not like invested. What about you? Are you excited about it?
Well, it's weird because I don't like from everything that I've seen of it. Obviously, it looks impressive, like visually. Um, so that's all
Yeah.
great. I I haven't played any of the Deus Ex stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not a fan of first person. Just like as a generally, I'd rather have third person. Um,
Yeah.
in any game, no matter what the genre. And it kind of bothers me that they're all they make a huge deal about customizing your character, and then they made a huge deal about how everything's in first person. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
so, but okay, like, so you can spend hours making your character look all cool, but you'll never see him unless you like look into a mirror or you're back in the customization
Yeah.
menu. So I don't really get that as much, and
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's been talking about how impressive and innovative and ahead of its time it's gonna be, but I don't really know
Mm-hmm.
or seen anything that supports that. Like, but like, how is it gonna be innovative and and they're like, well, look at it. I'm like, well, I am, but I haven't played any of it, so it's like, I don't, I don't know. So I don't know if I'm not as hooked because I don't really know what the hook is supposed to be.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does, and I'm completely there with you.
But yeah,
and
like
I
you
don't
said,
know.
if
They're
it comes out and everyone's like, oh my god, it's amazing, it's changed video game, you're like, well, then I guess we'll check it out, But
yeah.
But maybe I'd have a better
And
idea
the
of its potential once I've played Witcher 3, but I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's very possible. I know I wouldn't care at all if it weren't for The Witcher 3. So
Okay. And
I'll follow them.
yeah, I mean, I'm always up for a good video game, but that's what
Sure.
it comes down to, really.
Sure. Yeah. Is this going to be worth my time? I think it'll have lots of content.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like Call of Duty and sports games and that sort of things that come out every year, and they have basically the same sort of content. You play it for a week and you're done.
Right.
Or, even with Call of Duty, like the campaign, you play it for 5 hours and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I imagine it'll certainly be worth more monetarily than a lot of others in the industry are these days.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so that's good. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in April. It's not that far away now.
yeah, I guess that's true. What I do like in respect is, I saw that they're releasing. They're gonna have one edition for all stores, and you know, none of that nonsense of, oh, if you buy it here, you get this special thing, or if you get it this way, you'll get this special thing. They're just like, everybody should get the same game. Everyone who buys Cyberpunk 2077 when it comes out is gonna get the same stuff, and
Hmm.
I really like that because it's annoying nowadays when Gears was coming out. I was like, well, how, I want to get it through Game Pass, but all these other people are like, well, if you get it through us, you can get this shit. I'm like, what, do I care about that shit? Like, not really. So, eventually I was just like, I don't, I don't care where I get, just give me the game. Just give me the thing.
Yeah.
I want the thing. I've already told you I want the thing. Just give me the thing. Like, I don't want everybody coming out going, well, yeah, but if you buy the thing here, you'll get this with it. Or if you pre-order it, you'll get this. I'm like, well, what if I can't pre-order it? Well, then you're fucked. Then you don't get that
Right.
thing.
That's right.
I hate that. It's so annoying.
It is. It's gross, and it's capitalistic, and it's competitive.
Yeah.
It hurts the consumer, and that's upsetting.
How are you purchasing Death Stranding? Is there any special dealios there?
I'm just getting it through Best Buy because my Gamers Club Unlocked membership that they canceled like a year and a half ago is still live and through January, so I still get 20% off.
Oh, nice.
So I'm getting basically all my games through Best Buy these days, at least if I'm buying them new. So I'm just trying to get everything there. But it'll just be an unleaded edition. I imagine there's going to be some sort of upgrade for pre-ordering some day one edition
Yeah.
slip in the box or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. Dude, some
But I don't know. I didn't.
big cock edition. Comes with like one of those.
Yeah,
really
and there is. Yeah, and there is that, and it's weird, and it's Kojima. So I mean, whatever. It's not like it's not out there, and it's not like it's not enticing. It's
Right.
just I don't.
Right.
My chief. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
My only motivator was to save some cash. I wanted to play the game, and I want to save $12.
Right. And it's weird to me, especially like how they can expect us to shell out all that cash early for any game nowadays, like without, because you never know what you're gonna get anymore when you actually boot up the game. So
Mhm.
I think it's kind of weird for them to expect people to pay all this money up front. Like, especially for Death Stranding. I don't know what the hell that game is yet. And you're going to ask me to pay, like, oh, but if you get the special edition for like $150 for a game that I have no idea, no clue what it's going to be, like, well, no thank you.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And, who knows if it'll actually work when you put it into your console first day.
Yeah.
I mean, with Kojima, obviously, you hope for the best, but who knows if, he just went mad scientist and decided that, as soon as you put it in, it'll just burn your whole PS4 down. And just like,
Yeah.
that's how he's getting back into the world, Or it turns your PS4 sentient and it starts killing people.
Yeah, that's yeah. Goodness. And yeah, that's true. I mean, you don't even know if it'll be complete these days when people ship games. That's particularly common with Western developers like Ubisoft and EA and things like that, and it really bums me out because you don't even know if it'll be playable. People
Yeah.
that don't have like solid internet connections, and you don't know if you buy the game for 60 clams and then you take it home and you put it in your console and you can't play it or you encounter a game breaking glitch, they just shrug at you and go, sorry, patch it.
Yeah.
That bums me out. It's no good.
That's not okay. That's not.
Yeah.
That's not how it should be. I mean, it's nice that we
I
have this
agree.
way to fix the game after it's out, but at the same time, we shouldn't be relying on that.
Certainly. It shouldn't be an excuse not to ship a finished product.
I hear there's rumors on the
Which
internet.
actually, which hearing that Doom was delayed, it kind of made me. It reassured me a little bit because they could have gotten away with just releasing it. But
Sure.
they chose not to, so that's nice
Mhm.
that they're at least taking the time. But I better get a good game out of it when time comes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that at least it's not Bethesda developing it. At least it's
Right.
id.
Yeah.
Because if Bethesda were developing it, I don't think I'd even care. But thankfully, it is id again. So yeah, that does bring up a good point about how people choosing to push things back, like Nintendo courtesy flushing Metroid Prime 4 earlier this year, just because it's not up to snuff. So we're going to start again. I agree. I think that's very reassuring,
Yeah.
and that's something that, frankly, I'd like to see more of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, would you rather have the fan backlash of delaying a game or coming out with the actual game and it not being what we wanted? I think that's
Yeah.
what they need to balance out, and it's always going to be better to delay something because we're pissed now, but we'll be delighted when it comes out. I remember
Mm-hmm.
with Gears of War 3, they delayed that for like another 6 months, and we were all super disappointed, me and my buddies, because we were like, oh fuck,
Mhm.
Gears 3. But man, when it came out, we could see the improvements all the way through the game. Like, well,
Mhm.
this game is just, it runs so well, and it's what we, performance-wise, is exactly what we wanted and more. So I'm glad that they did that
Mhm.
because we would have gotten a clearly inferior game had they not. So
Certainly.
if we start hearing about more delays and stuff like that, where it becomes time to worry.
Yeah, then you get a little more apprehensive. I think that's understandable, and I think the developers know that too. The problem is getting the publishers to understand it, I guess, just because they want to make their monies.
Yeah, they want to make all the monies. All the
Monies.
All about the schemes.
And that's what it is, these days, I mean, the whole industry is a business, and so you have to understand what, like, Konami is thinking when they're completely shafting all of their consumers, and like all this kind of stuff. Like, there's stuff out there that's just to which we're not privy, and we just have to accept that, I guess.
Yeah.
Just bums me out
Yeah,
because it's not just art; it's business.
for sure. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Take it for what it is, I guess. Still, it's a fine business. I'm glad to continue supporting it like I have the last few years.
Indeed,
And
yeah,
we're living in a...
I mean, there are, with all the negativity, and we've talked about just today, like some of the games that are still memorable and changing our perspective on what games can be even now. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely pays off being a gamer and sticking with it, and because every now and then you will get something that kind of reaffirms your love for video games. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's always something new and innovative, and or even something new and innovative sucks. Like I don't know if Death Stranding is going to be any good, but I know it'll be unique. And
Yeah.
frankly, I think that's more enticing to me than something that I know is going to be amazing, like from developers like CDPR who are Cyberpunk. I am more intrigued by something like Death Stranding because it is utterly unique.
Yeah. Like whether it's crap or not, it's gonna change the conversation. You know.
Certainly.
Like, well, what worked?
And
What
there
didn't work?
there
What
might
was
be
he
things
trying to
to
do?
yeah. And there are going to be things that you can look for to like, even though some people will not. Like sometimes there are points where objectively bad, like when there's a game-breaking glitch or something is just a grind and it sucks and that sort of thing. But I rather think Kojima we're going to have enough unique things that we can say, oh, well, did you know that if you did this way, after talking to this person or whatever, that it unlocks this whole new region of the game, or weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that'll be the other
and
thing.
it doesn't.
Hearing like all the new, all the secrets and things that will eventually start coming out, all the things of the game.
Yeah.
Because if we're
And
still
soon.
finding stuff from PT, like we're still discovering shit in that little teaser of the game. Like imagine all the stuff that's hiding in Death Stranding, because it's Kojima just completely going off, is not doing whatever the hell he wants. So you know there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff hidden in that game.
Oh yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to figure, to finally kind of see what all that is about. Because it'll be interesting for sure. It'll
Certainly.
change things up. It'll be an event.
hmm
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, let's plan to do that when the game comes out. I'll just be playing on Twitch, and I've taken the day off. I've gotten PTO for it and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm going to be playing that game that day. That's what I'm doing. So
Oh, okay.
when I do that, I'll just throw it all on Twitch, and I'll send you a link, and I'll just record it or at least upload it to YouTube, and then cut it. So I'll certainly have stuff for you to play with and have a look at.
And that's
Yeah.
November 8th.
Thank you for the opportunity again. November 8th, that's correct, Friday. So 3 weeks.
Well, this might be a good place to end. I'm going to get going here soon. I'm sure you got some stuff to do.
Yeah.
But thanks for
Hi.
taking some time with me.
Yeah, dude, happy to do it. Always happy to hang out with you and chat good stuff. And thank you for the opportunity. I enjoy doing these with you.
Yeah, and then hopefully I've got Strange Brigade downloaded now. I've also got Friday the 13th, so there's options for us
Cool.
if we want to jump on again soon and play something. So, yeah, we'll do that soon.
Definitely. Very cool. Yeah, my Strange Brigade is, I don't have it hooked in via Ethernet. It's still at 46%, but I will have it by the time we can hang out next.
Cool.
So looking forward to that.
Sounds good. Well, then I will talk to you later.
Sounds good, buddy. Take it easy.
All right, you too as well, my man.